and you're watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksi kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Hello Black Eagles, welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. Beşiktaş have finally managed to book a victory again for the first time in 4 fixtures. That includes of course the game against Göztepe in the cup. And the first time since we beat Galatasaray in the Istanbul derby. So there's reason to rejoice. We didn't just win, we won emphatically. Ciro Immobile scored a hat-trick. Rafa Silva won a penalty, gave an assist and scored a goal. And Keny Arroyo scores his first Super League goal in the black and white of the Black Eagles. Hello, my name is Cam Bassett, and as always, I am joined by my co-hosts. Number 1 from New York City, New York, Mr. Sinan Schwarting.
Hello, how's it going, everyone? Great to be back on, with good tidings these days. And speaking of good tidings, it's halftime right now in the match between Göztepe and Başakşehir. Göztepe is winning 2-0, which it turns out is also great news because Başakşehir is the closest to us from behind. So if they points, it at least solidifies fourth for us theoretically. So I mean, Eyüp is a sinking ship. We can talk about that later. Anyway, doing great. Kartal, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. I'm training for a charity run just now, so I'm a bit sore. Yesterday was my first time practicing running, training running in about 5 years. So I'm a bit banged up. But other than that, man, I'm good. Happy that we won this game. Although I do have to admit that this was actually the second game of the season I missed because my friend asked him and all the rest of the boys could meet up in the pub for a chat on Friday evening, and without checking the schedule, I said yes. And I didn't want to cancel after saying yes, so I actually missed the game. I watched about 20 minutes of it while I was on the bus making my way to the pub. But I have watched the highlights a couple of times, and I do have some comments about the game, but I'm going to have to leave the bulk of the analysis to my two great co-hosts.
We've had so many terrible games in recent months. You picked this one to miss.
I'm starting to think I'm the fucking problem, by the way, man.
Yeah, it's time to stop watching.
I was gonna say maybe you should miss the next game. Let's see what happens next time. I'm just kidding, man. It's all good. I've been trying to forcefully, because it's like every match is starting to mean more again because we're fighting for third, and because in the playoffs, I've reached like peak superstition, like sport, you know what I mean? Like I've got to knock on wood when I have like a positive thought about one of the teams, or if we do something well, I'm like, oh, we're gonna screw this, and then like have to knock on wood again, or I've got to wear like Nick's hat during match day, or the right Beşiktaş jersey on, and so I've been trying to like not be so superstitious intentionally because it's kind of making me crazy. So Kartal, watch the next game. Screw that. I think it can't be you.
Of course.
I don't believe in magic.
Under normal circumstances, I don't miss any games, but the way the season was going and the fact that I'd already said yes to my friend without checking it, I thought, look, I'm not going to turn around and say, no, I can't come because there's a Beşiktaş game. I said, oh. And then we got the W anyway, so the main thing is it. So always good in the world just now.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
Let's have a quick look here. Maybe we can have a see at the rankings.
That's a good point.
Let me adjust that a little bit. Yeah, because you were talking about it, and we don't really bring up the standings enough. Of course, for us right now, it's not super topical to talk about rankings. I feel like that's why we haven't really made a big deal out of it because we're so far behind that it's almost not interesting. But Let's have a look here. Oh Jesus, it's a big ass column. I have to make it a little bit smaller so it doesn't. Wait, whose camera is turned off here? Somebody's camera is off. Let me.
Oh, that's Cartel.
That's because you weren't here last time. We used the screen, Cartel.
Oh yeah.
There we go. There's Cartel's beautiful face. Let's have a look at the standings here. So, yeah, as you can see, Başakşehir are our closest followers. Well, Eyüpspor, I should say, are our closest followers, but they already lost. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've already played 32 matches.
And
as
they
well,
have 32
so,
matches. And yeah, they are having financial issues apparently. Wages not being paid.
Yeah.
Kel Surprise there, right? How many times have we seen that?
I guess their sugar daddy backed out, I guess. Perhaps helping them.
You know, very convenient right before that match against Galatasaray that they stopped training as well. That's not suspicious at all, given all the ties to Galatasaray, but whatever. It doesn't really hurt us at all. So, Eyüp lost on the weekend. Samsun actually got their first win in 5 matches, if I'm not mistaken. So, they jumped back over us.
Yeah, scraped it though, right?
Yeah, they did. They got away with it in Bodrum. Goal disallowed for a very narrow offside and then added time. Then a penalty call overturned by VAR. Yeah, they kind of got by by the skin of their teeth. But let's see. So Eyüp is the right now the closest follower. Başakşehir are playing at the moment, but if the result of the match stays the same, then they're at least 4 points behind. That would be great for us. That gives us a little bit of breathing space with the derby coming up next week. Then a potential loss or drop of points there wouldn't be the end of the world. If we get a point, we'll at least stay in 4th place. And if we get more than a point, obviously we're golden. But yeah, right now it's looking decent on paper. We have to say we have Fenerbahçe coming up on the weekend, and then we have Adana Demirspor coming up after that. And of course, as we know, Adana Demirspor are rock bottom of the table, and they are rock bottom there with -2 points. Not that is super impactful for us, but yeah, worth a mention, I guess. They did lead in Konya this weekend until like the 68th minute, and then they somehow ended up losing 3-1. So again, we are literally the only team that have played Adana Demirspor this season who have not been able to beat them, I feel. So, I mean, I know they have like 1 or 2 more wins, but 1 win, I think. Let's see. Paying proper attention. 2 wins.
Just 1 other win.
Yeah, they have 2 wins in the season, so yeah, it's really abysmal that we haven't been able to beat them. But Hatayspor, the standings.
I was gonna say it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, go ahead.
Say again.
No, I'm just Hatay.
I was gonna say it's worth mentioning. Is there? I think there might be like a slight delay.
I feel like there's a delay there.
We're just. Yeah, but I was gonna say we should probably mention the Samsun schedule as well, since their 3rd place is very much in play right now with us. Mm-hmm. With the game in hand, we could already have it. But so Samsun has Eyüpspor, Sivas, Trabzon, and then Kayserispor. So like 3 out of 4 of those teams have everything to play for, I think, right?
Well, Sivas are obviously trying to avoid relegation. I'm hearing my voice, by the way. Sinan, are you using your headphones or?
Yeah, I'm on my headset. Is it maybe Carter?
Oh, possibly. I don't know. Are you using earbuds or anything like that, Carter?
Oh, I'm just using my laptop's mic.
Oh yeah, I think it's picking up my voice there. I think I heard Kim yell at Aiden before. Because he spilled some stuff on the floor or something, and then it came through.
Oh, you had muted that?
I muted my microphone on OBS, but obviously not on Skype, and then it came through. Then I heard it come through somebody's speaker there.
That's funny.
I'm sure you deserved it, boy.
Now we know.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I mean, it's. Although, yeah, sure. Like, I think Fener is a match you just never know how it could go. We could very obviously drop points against them. You could definitely see, I think, 3 of where Samsun could drop points as well. So, yeah, I mean, I know there was a lot of negativity going into the Hatay match. I think, I hope now, I guess, that people can kind of get a little bit excited for the possibility that we're fighting for 3rd place, which I don't know if you guys recall, but in our pre-season prediction, I got a lot of heat for suggesting we could finish in 3rd place. But the irony, too, is that if we actually end up a good over where we finished last season, it will even end up representing a modicum of success regarding progress. Within that, I think, in a funny way, at least as you consider us building forward, going into next season. I feel like we're building on something here potentially, but obviously we've had a few negative results of late too. So, we have to carry this Hatay form into these next few matches for sure. And again, I was hoping that the players could understand that they actually kind of have something to play for now with 3rd place in play, with Samsun sort of fumbling back. And it seems like they certainly responded well against Hatay, but I really, really hope that they can maintain that. Obviously against Fener, just for the sake of being able to beat our rival, but even beyond Fener, I hope we show some sense of urgency through these last few matches.
Yeah, let's have a look here as well, Sinan, because you're talking about our recent results. But let's have a look at the remainder of our schedule here. And we'll have a look at our rivals as well before we start digging into the match itself. Yes. But obviously we have Fenerbahçe coming up on the weekend. Then we have Adana Demirspor the next weekend at home. Then we have Alanyaspor, a team that's also fighting for survival in the standings. So that's a very difficult match, I would say. And then we have Rizespor at home. And then we finish with Bodrum away. And hopefully for us, Bodrum will know their fate at that point, whether they're going down, whether they're staying up. We have to hope kind of that for them, that's not an important game anymore, either way. Because otherwise, of course, it will be tough. Bodrum have been on tremendous form in the second half of the season. They could have definitely gotten at least a point against Samsunspor on the weekend, I think. So Alanyaspor away, Bodrum away, those are 2 very difficult matches on paper. Rizespor at home, there's no guarantee there either. Adana Demirspor, really a match you have to win. And Fenerbahçe at the derby, you don't really know what to expect from that. So it's a tough one to call. So let's have a quick look at if we can find Samsunspor's schedule here. I'm just trying to look for a quick link to Samsun. Where the hell are they? That's Eyüp. So, well, actually, we can have a look at Eyüpspor's schedule first, and I'll get to Samsun that way. So, Eyüp have only 4 matches left. We have 5 matches because, as you alluded to already, Sinan, they of course have 32 matches played already. So they have Samsun away. Ideally, I think you want this game to end in a draw. But how motivated are Eyüp players going to be still? They're not getting paid or getting paid late. They haven't been training this week. They didn't train before the Galatasaray game. Are they going to train before the Samsun game? So on paper, this would be a very difficult game for Samsun, but the question is, how motivated are the Eyüp players still to finish out this season? That's got, of course, also a bonus to it, an added benefit to it, that maybe that also means they'll slip in these other games and we don't have to worry about them. So we only have to worry about Başakşehir here creeping up on us. It can go both ways. Then they have Kasımpaşa at home.
No, and if you look, but Eyüp also has Fener, on the road. So
but again,
they have a pretty tough.
But that also depends, for Fener, what's going to happen?
Could be out of it too.
If Fener doesn't beat us on the weekend, then they're totally the title race. They already kind of are, if you ask me. They're 5 points back. Galatasaray are not dropping points at all. They need Galatasaray to drop points at either 3 times, or they have to lose twice. And they've lost once all season. So the chances of that are slim to nil. The chances of them dropping points 3 times in the last 5 games are also slim to nil. So Fenerbahçe's title chances are almost non-existent at this point. So if we... Oh.
For sure.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Your voice, you keep coming in and out. I don't know if Siran's had the same experience.
Yeah, I was worried that was my internet. Okay. I'm in a way.
It must be Siran's.
Yeah. Maybe your internet's popping in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten any comments in the chat, so things working.
Let's have a... It does say that the reconnection is successful, but I did have a notification there. I'm just going to do a quick speed test once we're done here, but I'm just quickly going to bring up the Samsunspor schedule. So Samsunspor, also an important one to look to, and the same thing is true here. They only have 4 matches left, whereas we have the 5 matches. So Samsun, as we talked about, they have Eyüp up first, then they have Sivasspor, who are fighting for their
really
lives.
Like the most. They're the most at risk currently for relegation, because Alanya has a game in hand, so they're likely to pass them, and so they're going to be in that last spot, and they're going to want to do everything they can. Obviously, a club like Sivas will feel like they don't want to go down by any stretch, so they're going to be fighting tooth and nail for that one. Yeah. For me, that's the one where I feel like Samsun is very likely to drop points.
Yeah,
as well as Trabzon.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Black Sea derby. Trabzon are not going to want to lose at home against a local rival, you could say. And then finally, they close out the season at home against Kayserispor, and Kayserispor have been decent in recent months. So that's no guarantee either. So I think
they're at the cusp. They're at the cusp of the relegation zone too, though. So if Kayseri drops a couple matches in the coming weeks, that game could actually be important for them. Yeah. And one other very important point regarding the Trabzon match, because it's in for a chance to win both the league and the cup, 5th place becomes kind of a battleground for the likes of Başakşehir, Eyüp, Samsun, Trabzon, Göztepe even, they're all going to want to fight to get into 5th place, because there's a very good chance that that's going to book you a spot to the Conference League, spot in the Conference League. So there's everything for those guys to play for. So I honestly think Samsun's going to drop points in definitely 2 out of these last 4 matches. Could very well be 3. I mean, Eyüp is the one where, ironically, the team that has the most to play for is the team that I think is going to put up the least fight. And it's really bad timing. Maybe they'll get it together before the season's out, and they'll have a little bit to play for. If not pride, 5th place. But they're a little bit disheveled at the moment. So hopefully they'll get it together before Samsun.
And then let's have a look here at Başakşehir, of course. Like we were talking about, right now they're trailing 2-0 away at Göztepe. Then they have Hatay away. Hatay are pretty much dead in the water, so that's you would imagine a win for Başakşehir. Then they have Fenerbahçe at home. That's a tough one. They have Kasımpaşa away, and then they end the season against Adana Demirspor. So I think for Başakşehir, they have a relatively easy schedule other than that Fenerbahçe game. So for me, they're the team I'm most worried about. But of course, if they lose today against Göztepe, then they're 4 points back. So we have a little bit of a lead on them for the moment. But they're honestly the team I'm most worried about. Don't know how you guys feel about that.
Başakşehir, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were tough against us the other day. Çağdaş Atan has them well organized, fighting pretty well at this stage of the season. I'm honestly quite surprised to see Göztepe has, they've dipped a little bit after we were so complimentary of them for a while there. I mean, maybe, are they still in the cup, right? Don't they still have to play?
No, they're out. They got eliminated by Trabzon.
Oh, they lost to Trabzon. Yeah. So the final is Trabzon against Galatasaray, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. So Trabzon could theoretically book their spot via the cup, but I don't know. I have a bad feeling Galatasaray is gonna, they're gonna want to do their big celebration for the double.
Okay, I'm not bothered if Galatasaray wins the cup. If Galatasaray wins the cup, it benefits third.
It's true.
We get the play.
Yeah,
instead of going in from like the second or third round in the Europa League qualifiers, we go straight in through the playoffs. If Galatasaray win the cup.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. That's why it's like it's win-win. If they win, it's like, oh, we have a better spot in Europe. Like, haha, Galatasaray lost.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good setup for that match for sure. Yeah. Shall we talk about this match, fellas, a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about
too
the
much
game.
because I know.
See, Katla, can you plug in the ears, please? Because I keep hearing myself.
I've done it already, man. It must be something on your end because I put earbuds in.
Actually, I was gonna say I think it just got better.
Where's it coming from then? I don't know. That's really weird.
Still here?
I don't know. All right. Where does it keep? Where does it keep coming from?
Yeah, innit? I didn't think I was the issue anyway because I never wear the earbuds on when we're on there, and you never complained about this before. I put them in now. If there's still a problem, it's clearly something from your end, man.
All right, let's see if I can see. Yeah, it's seen now.
Maybe we're like double running it or something because that's me.
I think it might be you. I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep an eye on these.
I have the same setup as usual.
Yeah. Now it's not happening though, so that's weird.
Like,
I don't know. Let's have a look at this lineup in the meantime.
Chat, although the chat's pretty honest. People on there. They would have noticed.
Yeah,
anyway. So, great match. Let's dig into this lineup. As always, we'll do our opponents the service of going through theirs first. And the goalkeeper for our opponent for Hatayspor was a 27-year-old Kosovan, countrymate of Rashica, Visar Bekaj, who I had never seen nor heard of before this match. For their defense, of course, here's a name that many will recognize. Francisco Calvo, 32-year-old Costa Rican. He's been there for a minute. Who played next to 25-year-old Cameroonian Guy Marcelin Kilama, who I didn't really notice much. Left flank, Cengiz Demir, 24-year-old Turk. Right back, Kamil Çurekçi. I don't know how to pronounce that. 33-year-old Turk. Their midfield, debatable. So Fatma and slightly different interpretations of it. So they've got Masanga in the middle, Chandrel Masanga, 25-year-old Congolese 6, I suppose we'd call it. And then you've got Abdul Kadir Parmak, 30-year-old Turk, and Gürkem Saylam, 27-year-old German Turk. And on the flanks, Bilal Boutuba, 26-year-old Frenchman. And of course, Joelson Fernandes, 22-year-old Portuguese left winger.
22?
Almost had a. He's only 22, and he had a stunner of a shot that almost went in.
Is he not much older?
Apparently, he's only 22. And he's kind of interesting. If he's only 22, he's kind of an interesting prospect.
I mean, I've always liked him, but I always thought he was really old. But yeah, you're right. He's only 22. Because I mean, I think every time I watch Hatay play, I literally say, like, in the group chats, like, this guy is so much better than Rashica. He's not, like, super productive.
Yeah.
It's not like he bags a lot of goals. He doesn't He doesn't get a ton of assists or anything like that, but he is fast. He's skilled on the ball. Always beats his man. And honestly, I mean, he's got 2 goals, 4 assists this season for Hatayspor. Like, he's a player I really like him. I just thought he was old. Yeah. I thought he was like 32 or something.
I definitely noticed him in this match.
No, you're right. He's 22 years old. He's from 2003. Like, I didn't know that. I mean, honestly, if he's that young, that's somebody I'd be interested in, quite frankly.
It's with him for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and he's, I mean, they're going down, and we could technically be picking him up super cheap. Like, he's a player I really like. I don't know how you guys feel about him, but like every time.
I'm 100% in. I'm in, yeah.
Every time I watch these guys play, he causes us a lot of problems, and he causes I feel like with Hatay, whenever I've watched them play, they're really low down there in the table. They only have like 15 points, but they are so much better than the standings would make you suspect. I think their main issue is that they have a back line that you can't really trust. They lost so many points early in the season in added time. They lost so many points in the first half of the season because of their goalkeeper, RJ Kardeşler. Now RJ I think he's gone now. So now they have this Bekay guy. He's definitely a better goalkeeper. But at this point, they're already dead in the water. But, you know, I've watched them against Galatasaray. I've watched them against Fenerbahçe. I've watched them against us. I've watched them in a handful of other games. And this Jolson Fernandez is always somebody that stands out to me. I think if he would play for us, we'd probably find him a little bit frustrating because he doesn't really have a lot of end product, maybe. But he's only 22 years old. Like, I don't know how you feel about him, Kakla. Is he somebody that's jumped out to you in the past?
To be honest, no. I've not really watched much of Hatay, so I can't say he has. Obviously, 3 assists, 2 goals. It's not a great contribution this season.
4 assists.
I'm going off of what's it called again? FotMob.
Oh, that's probably a penalty one then, because Transfermarkt. I'm going off of Transfermarkt right now, and they count penalty one as a goal, as an assist. But FotMob doesn't. Rightfully so. I think it's not an assist. It should be a separate stat. It's definitely an important stat, but it's not an assist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's not an assist. What I will say though is I've just had a look at his numbers on FotMob, and his stats don't look good in terms of the numbers. Obviously, you guys have liked the way he's played. That, as I admitted at the start of the broadcast, I've actually watched this game. It's the second game all season I missed. I only watched about 20 minutes of it while I was travelling to the pub to meet my mates, and I watched the highlights. There was a few of the highlights he was involved in. Mm-hmm. So obviously he was a standout player for them. I can't say he's someone that stood out to me in general, no, because I'm not really someone that watches the other teams. I mainly just watch all games.
I'd be interested in seeing his dribble stats, because I would imagine those are and like in take-ons and stuff like that. I feel like those should be pretty high. Chance creation.
His dribble success rate is. Yeah. His dribble success rate is, let me tell you, is 32.9%, which isn't that great.
Depends on how many.
He's had 24 successful dribbles this season, which works out at 0.5 successful dribbles per 90 minutes, which isn't that good.
That's not great, no. No? He passes my eye test, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of his stats are going to be hurt by the team he plays for this year because they're so poor. But not necessarily his dribble, so I don't know what to make of that.
But even if you watch him watch him play, like, you can tell that that's not a player that's gonna bag you a shit ton of goals and a shit ton of assists, I feel like. But he's still young, of course, you know.
But neither is Rashica. The reason I support the idea is because I think Rashica provides a lot of the same frustrations, and he's in 28 going into next season. Mm-hmm. So having a 22-year-old who's, like, I think faster, shows more upside as far as development, you know, and obviously because of his age, more sale value, and probably because of his salary as well. So, yeah, I would suggest if we could replace Rashica with a guy like that, I would take that any day. But
I think it's very good to note, though, guys, that it's not a good idea saying that we should sign a player just based off of one game. Obviously,
of course not.
You guys have liked him in this game.
No, I've liked him for a while.
You can have a look at him.
I've seen him a few times.
I mean, he was at Hatay.
If they think that he's someone that could be,
he was at Hatay last season as well.
Then that's right.
You know, he was at Hatay last season too, and he's always somebody that jumped out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you know, he jumps out to me in the match itself, but like numbers wise, he's not really putting up great numbers. You have to then question, you know, how is that gonna translate to a step up? He probably, quite frankly, I don't think he would succeed. But I just feel like he's the type of player with, you know, he's from a team that's going down. He'd be worth a punt, you know, for cheap. If you can get him on a low contract, he'd be worth a gamble, but we don't really have the luxury to gamble.
Can't see the thing is though, do you not think with in a world where you're on 14 foreigners, it's not very wise to take too many gambles?
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe one or two max.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because
although if this new rule comes into play where there's less number,
they made an announcement on that new.
Oh, have they?
It's just 14.
They backtracked on that.
Yeah, 14 foreigners. Yeah. And is it 14 plus 2, or is the guys that need to be under a certain age included in those 14? I think they're included, right?
They're included, Kat.
Yeah, so it's 12 foreigners of any age, and then 2 need to be born in 2003 or after, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and that's gonna change.
Like increased.
Or it might even be 2004. It might even be 2004, and then next season it's gonna be 2005. But for us, I mean, Ella Ricardo and Kenny both check those boxes, so we don't really have to worry about that. That makes sense. Yeah. But it is still gonna be 14, so we're still gonna be, you know, stuck with a lot of dead weight. Amir, Ox, you know, all those players that we don't really see as you know, players we necessarily want to go forward with.
We'll have to do an episode like at the end of the season where we go over the roster and just kind of like cross off all the people we're okay with saying goodbye to and see what we're left with.
I've looked it up just to get some clarification on that. So 14 foreigners are allowed for next season. Two of them have to be born after the 1st of January 2003. As of the 2026 to 2027 season, again, 14 foreigners you're allowed. However, 4 of them need to be born after the 1st of January 2004.
Yeah. Can you send that to me, Cathal, and then I'll bring it up on the screen so people can also have a look at it?
Of course.
Just drop it in the chat, and I'll in the WhatsApp chat, please.
It's like one of those random party bags, you know. Every year you're gonna get like a new rules on this.
Oh yeah. That's one of the biggest issues with Turkish football as well. Like, how can you plan a proper?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's been doing that, man. Like I've been getting the same issue. Like it can't open links for some reason. I'm gonna try a different browser. Let's see. Is that working?
I'll wrap up the lineup talk. So the last piece of Hatay's roster is their striker, who is a Swedish. It's interesting. He's black but Swedish. Well, I guess it's not that interesting. It's 2025, but Carlos Strandberg, 29-year-old Swede. But so he's like, it's like a proper Swedish last name, right? Strandberg. But so obviously he's probably got like a immigrant, you know, he's mixed or something, but that's cool.
Yeah, maybe his dad is Swedish and his mother
is Carlos, maybe South American or something. But yeah, I always like those That used to be quite rare, but it's probably a lot less rare these days. I mean, obviously in France you see it a ton or whatever, but you don't see it in Scandinavia all that often. Anywho, yeah, so that's it for their lineup, which already we're talking about a couple pieces that maybe we're interested in. So, I mean, only one to be honest. For us, not many surprises, although I wonder what you guys think about Amir starting there over Ox. Goal, Mert Gunok. On the back line, of course, Gabriel Paulista and Emirhan Topçu. Was Emirhan injured, guys?
He was subbed off injured, yeah.
Do we have any news on that? Is it a big one? Or?
No, I think it was a precaution because of the Fener game on the weekend, I think. So.
Yeah, he walked off.
Yeah,
so.
I think it...
I was hoping that. He did walk off.
I just think it was like, let's not take a risk because he's only just come back from an injury. That's probably just, let's not risk him. We needed him against Fener on the weekend. And I think he came off when the game was already in the bag, right? Wasn't it like the 75th minute or something like that when he came off?
Yeah.
Minute
80th minute, yeah.
Oh, 80th minute even, so, yeah. But it was already 5-1 at that point.
Yeah, no, he put in a great shift, I thought. Let's go over those three players, I guess, as far as analysis goes. Mert had, actually, I thought one of the better matches of late. He made some solid saves, to keep us ahead as much as we were.
We gave away more chances than I would have liked, honestly, but it's going to harken back to what I said earlier. I think Hatay is actually one of the rare teams in the Super League, one of the rare Anadolu teams in the Super League that I feel actually have the offensive players to hurt Galatasaray, for example. Like, Galatasaray struggled tremendously in both their games against Hatay. They won the opening match day thanks to the referee with a bullshit penalty and a goal that every referee pundit afterwards said was offside in the 90th minute and a bullshit penalty in the 80th minute. They were 1-0 down at home. That was coming off of their 5-0 spanking by us in the Super Cup, mind you. So the refs really did their best there to help them in the saddle and get them past Hatay. And then in the second match, in the beginning of January, when for the second half of the season started, they drew 1-1 against Galatasaray. And again, bullshit penalty that saved Galatasaray's asses there. So, like, Hatay, for me, whenever I've seen them play, I feel like very often when I watch Galatasaray play and Fenerbahçe, like, I feel like the Anadolu teams, they don't really have the gunpowder up front to hurt these teams right now. And then I think that's something we've talked about in recent months, that the level of the league has kind of gone down. Like, Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray invested very heavily in their squads. They have pumped ridiculous amounts of money in their squad. So, like, on paper, their squads are much better than they were, say, 5 years ago. But I think the same thing can be said, the opposite can be said of the rest of the league. I feel like the rest of the league 5 years ago, every team had, like, this is gonna sound bad, but, like, a really good fast black guy on the wings. And, like, a decent striker. And, like, a couple of good players that could hurt the big teams. And I feel like a lot of these Anadolu teams right now, yeah, they can hurt Beşiktaş because we suck. But they can't hurt Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe. Like, so many times this season, I've watched games of those two teams, and there's like, they don't get in trouble. You know what I mean? And Hatay, I feel, despite the fact that they're so low in the standings, are one of the rare teams in the league that actually do have some players that hurt you. Like, Strandberg is somebody that in the Galatasaray games, for example, he's always been a handful. They have had Abubakar, but he hasn't been great. Joelson Fernandez is somebody that stands out as well. They had the guy on the right, I forget his name, but he was causing us some problem. He gave the assist.
Butoba.
Yeah, he gave the assist.
Bilal Butoba.
He
was good.
He was causing us issues,
Also, that Masanga guy in their midfield was pretty solid as well in the back of their midfield. Although, and then over time, and I think maybe he had fatigue issues or something. And
in the past, Super League teams used to have like Nakulma, They used to have Morike Fafana in his prime. I know he's still playing in Turkey, but now he's like 32, lost some pace, all that kind of stuff. You know, they had like Erkan Zengin playing for Eskişehirspor. He was always causing issues. You know, and like in his prime, Efecan Karaca, who plays for Alanyaspor, but now he's like, what, 33, 34? But like a couple of years ago, he was really, really good. And Alanyaspor always had like a good striker. And then they had like, Fernandez, I forget what his first name was, but they had a couple of really good foreigners up there. And I feel like that's diminished a lot now. But Hatayspor is still one of those teams that still have that, I feel. And somehow, you know, their defense just lets them down, I think. And goalkeeper.
I'm a little mixed on that. Like, the reputation of the Super League has reached a point where there are always fairly decent talents who are willing to come here to develop their talent. But where I think you're absolutely right is, you know, just given the economic insanity of this last, 5-10 years, the spending power of those smaller clubs has diminished to a point
so
where,
many clubs have
they can attract players occasionally, but they can't.
The biggest reason for the collapse of the Anadolu teams is the TV deal. The TV deal has drastically declined in value over the last 5 or so years. Yeah. And I think in the 3 years that Galatasaray won this league, I think we've seen the Anadolu teams get worse over time.
Yeah.
I think, especially the last few seasons. To be honest, I think Turkish football's not been as good since you kind of when our period of domination had finished in 2018. I think since then the league's been on like the downward spiral, to be honest. And I think over the last few years we've seen our rivals, well, Galatasaray the last 3, Fenerbahçe the last 2, invest a fuck ton of money, and they've dominated because of that. But even in their European performances have been not impressive either.
Yeah.
So I think the league's been on a downward spiral for the last maybe 7 years or so. I think the Anadolu teams, especially over the last few years, have really, really gotten bad. I think Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe have somehow been able to pull all this money out of their ass.
They spent more than they ever have before. So while everyone else in the country doesn't have, a point to scratch their ass, to put it in a Belgian saying, they somehow managed to spend more than they ever have. But everyone else is like, and the TV deal, of course, is a big part of that. But also, post-Corona, I feel like our football just hasn't recovered because, or the TV deal isn't great.
I mean, and
look, the stadiums are half empty.
I hate to bring it to this sort of conversation because it's mildly political, perhaps. One talks about corruption in a vacuum, like, oh, corruption is bad, and like you're against it because you have your sort of ideals or whatever. But there's a reason to be against it in reality as well. And I think this is where when you have a league that's essentially drawn up by the benefactors, right? When you have the rules benefiting them increasingly, when you have more and more referees in their pocket, and it becomes more and more top-heavy as a result. This is kind of the end game of that, right? You had good actors. If you had a TFF that was genuinely interested in improving Turkish football and like improving the chances of smaller clubs, right? They'd be fighting for these TV contracts to distribute more money to the bottom end and to sort of reward the winners, the victors less, knowing that the victors are very likely going to be one of 3 clubs every year, right? And so if you're really interested in developing the league and sort of putting the best quality product out there week in, week out, match in, like every match, regardless of whether one of the big 3 or 4 clubs is in it, you've got to actually do something. You've got to actively, divert resources to those clubs that are lacking. And if you don't, this is the end game. And if you don't do it cumulatively for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I mean, this is kind of what happens. And of course, in the end, it almost hurts Galatasaray and Fener because there's almost for them to operate well, and that's where they're struggling in Europe, right? Because there's essentially no competition for them in Turkey. They can just kind of throw money at whatever stupid idea comes into their head, and oftentimes it's an aging talent that they shouldn't be throwing all that money at in the first place. They do it anyway because, like, what the hell? It's, you know, they're probably going to win the league anyway, or at least get second and, you know, get Champions League money. And so it's this cycle, right? And it's just it's diminishing over time the whole country's football. And of course, what sucks for us is that
I don't really agree with what you're saying about the TV money, though, Sinan, because I don't think that clubs who have, on average, like 1,500 fans in their stadium deserve to get a bigger chunk of the TV deal. Because 95% of the people that buy Digiturk or that buy beIN Sports buy it to watch Fenerbahçe, Beşiktaş, or Galatasaray or Trabzonspor. They don't.
But if you keep under disturbing those smaller clubs, it's just going to maintain, right? Like at the end of the day, you can't select who's in the top league, but you have to make sure that those resources do get distributed, or ultimately the quality of those teams is going to keep diminishing, right? Like
I like Sinan's idea, and it's like a very distribution of wealth. At the same time, can you really say it's fair competition when the person that's winning is getting less money than the teams at the bottom?
Well, no, I'm not less. I'm just saying you've got to sort of change the numbers so that those smaller clubs are benefiting more from the TV. Obviously, at the end of the day, the winners are still going to get, you know, significantly more than the losers and all that. I think you have to sort of tweak the margins, right? Maybe the winner gets slightly less and more of that money proliferates to the smaller clubs.
That's because the actual money coming in is very little now. 5 years ago, the Super League winner would get like 25 million euros for just winning the league. Now that's like 5-6 million euros. Essentially, we earned more money in the Europa League. I believe we won 11 million euros from the Europa League this season. Someone could fact check that, but I'm sure that's a number I heard somewhere. Whereas Galatasaray only won 5 to 6 million euros for actually winning the Super League last year. So going through a Europa League group stage run is actually worth more than winning the Turkish Super League now. Mm-hmm. I think for the long-term success of the league and for that TV deal to get back where it was, you really need to clean the league up. You need to get rid of the corruption. You need to get the officiating better. You need to stamp out the scandals like referees getting punched and stuff like that. You need to almost promote teams doing the right things, like promote teams like Göztepe and stuff like that. Maybe not give them more of the TV deal, but incentivise certain things like what Göztepe is doing, these projects.
So I guess
see that idea they had, for example, about making the foreign limit unlimited. That was a great. Apart from like they had to be under a certain age, that was a great idea. Only if they'd left the international requirement. If they lifted the international requirement from that, that's a great idea because that promotes looking at young talent instead of older players that are over the hill. I think see if you improve the overall product, in time that TV money will get better again. And if the money is used wisely, which should happen if you're getting better. The TV money will go out and then your teams can get to a state of somewhat being economically stable. I think that's what you need to do in the long term.
Yeah, you need to the TV the TV deal definitely needs to be increased, but like you said, like cleaning up Turkish football, yeah, but there's no incentive. Like the powers that be, whether it be the government or the Turkish Football Federation, those are a big chunk of the corruption. The corruption is stemming from there. So there's nobody that has an incentive to clean it up because the two teams that benefit from it, they're the ones who have all the power and they don't want it to be cleaned up. You know? Like, I mean, Fenerbahçe claimed that they wanted to be cleaned up, but because they want to win the league, obviously, but they're still... the second most, the second biggest beneficiary from all this corruption. Like they still get a lot more. Yeah. And I'm not saying like Beşiktaş doesn't get like favorable calls from time to time. Of course we do, and so do Trabzon. But like when it comes to systematic pushing teams, like there's only two clubs that get systematically pushed. Başakşehir as well in the past, but you know.
Can I want to just make a comment on what you said there. Like Beşiktaş is the team that's widely accepted as the team that's been fucked over the most by the referees.
Yeah.
We've lost the most trophies because of the referees.
100%.
And what you said about we try and get decisions, yes, but I think that's been a wee bit of a thing points this season, especially around January, February. But that was after we were well out the race at the start of the season.
They do it deliberately that way.
Sure.
They're like, oh, but look, Beşiktaş gets some calls too, gets some controversial calls too. But obviously, that never happens when Beşiktaş are actually in the race. Then we never get those calls. And I'm not saying we should, by the way. I don't want to win like that.
Yeah, so we want it to be fair, whereas Fenerbahçe, they don't want it to be fair, man. Like they just want them to be the main beneficiary instead of the number two. I don't buy. We want a fair league. No, you don't, man.
No, they don't.
Like,
they want it.
You guys get.
Mourinho has mentioned it a few times. You know, the status quo, and he's talked about the status quo in Turkey. But like the irony is that they are very much part of that status quo, because the status quo is Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe. They are the status quo. They're always like the one that gets pushed. Like Turkish football revolves around them. That is how it functions in their world. And you know, I mean, you can't really argue too much with it other than Beşiktaş, Trabzonspor, and a handful of clubs, because 70% of the league is Başakşehir, Kasımpaşa, shit clubs, really shit artificial clubs that have no fan base. So, of course, that doesn't help matters. If you would have Sakaryaspor, Kocaelispor, Eskişehirspor, I hate to say it, but Bursaspor, Ankara Gücü again, but like if you'd have like a league, 18 teams where you have like average attendance 10, 15,000 clubs that actually have fans, then it wouldn't be so, the whole Turkish football revolves around these two. It would be much harder to push that because there'd be much more headwind against it. But right now, Kasımpaşa, Başakşehir, these shit clubs, they're not gonna say anything. They don't care, man. They just want their slice of the pie, because it's just ways of getting money into shady people's pockets. Those clubs.
Yeah. I mean, ideally we'd have a league that had like Sakaryaspor, Bursaspor, Ankara Gücü.
But the thing is, we've almost removed.
Kocaelispor.
We've removed sort of the key elements of success from our football in a way, right? Like traditionally, you're supposed to be rewarded for filling your stadium because you make enough money to buy better players and right. So in a way, like we have to kind of return to that, right? These clubs that don't have any fans shouldn't really be able to exist, and it's a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
That they are, and I think in a way, because you have them being like the Eyüp, right? They're being floated by other clubs. I mean, Kasımpaşa has had shady links historically.
But Sinan, I think it's only possible.
You've got to get this.
Something like that is only possible in Turkey because the income from the fans represents so little, right? Because of the lira. Mm-hmm. Selling tickets, like you can sell out your stadium every match, unless you're going to charge exorbitant amounts for tickets. Like if you're charging 50, 60, 70, 90, let's say 100 lira for a ticket, yeah, that's not gonna bring in any money, right? Like Kocaelispor can have a full stadium, but if they're charging 90 lira, like it's nothing. Yeah. And in every other country,
maybe TV money should be linked to attendance somehow. That would be clever,
Then we need to expand.
If you fill out your stadium, you get like a larger. Every time you fill it out, you get like a 5% cut of that money.
But in other countries, like in Germany and so on, like all those small clubs, they make a fuck ton of money on ticket sales, even though they don't have ridiculous prices. Yeah. But they still make and even here in Belgium and in the Netherlands, like clubs charge maybe 25, 30 euros for a ticket. But if they have 7,000, 8,000 people in the stadium, that's decent. That's a decent source of revenue, right? Like 25 times 8,000. That's 200,000 euros per game.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, there's some systemic issues that it will take some
massive.
creative
It's going
work.
to take time. If anything's going to be fixed, it's going to be a long process. But the first thing that needs to be done is cleaning up this league. But
I think the country. I think nothing can change until the country changes.
We have corruption. Yeah. It sucks, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, how can you?
And like we've seen it so many times. Like, how many times have we seen a league sort of emerge, despite its sort of dysfunctional political situation and sort of like Russia, right? Like, in a way, a league can't be any more than what the country can provide for its people. Essentially, you know what I mean? Like, you can't expect no corruption to exist in a place where corruption exists in every other facet of every other industry. You know. You're right. We've got to clean up. You got to clean up Turkey, folks.
But Turkey is definitely a country that's very passionate about football. It's not a country that's artificial, in the sense of, we have tradition. We have a big football tradition. It's not like Saudi Arabia and China and like those, or even the United States, the MLS, where it's kind of being artificially created, if that makes sense. Turkey isn't like that, but on the other hand, it is, because half the league are artificial clubs. So we somehow managed to turn a very
undercut our own strength.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the biggest strengths and appeals of Turkish football is the fan culture, and we destroy it because we are overly asinine on swearing in the stadium. Fans get banned all the time, but like not individually, but like in blocks, because it's too much effort to actually find the problems. But like they are getting banned for swearing, which is not even like racist stuff or anything like that. It's just for just swearing. That happens everywhere in the world.
For being upset.
And then like, for example, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I watch a lot of games, not Beşiktaş games too, and our matches, our fans, the volume on our fans is always turned down to like, if it's on a scale to 100, like our fans are dialed down to like 20, and in every other stadium it's like I feel like it's normalized more, like it's 50 or whatever. The dial is like at 50.
Ironically, they're trying to elevate, like they're trying to make it seem like there's more involvement or excitement from their fans, where in a way, again, we're undercutting it, right? We're like trying to diminish it because we don't want to hear whatever they might sort of slip out of their mouths.
And they've gotten really bad at it, by the way, because you notice it's super hard when the commentators are speaking, that the commentator volume is way up, and then the crowd volume, the stadium volume is super turned down. I feel like in the past it was more nuanced, but like this season, like the quality of it, like the way they do it, it's like they're cheaping out. I was complaining about it not too long ago, I think. And if you then watch like the European games in the Europa League and stuff like that, where they don't do it as crazily compared to beIN Sports. beIN Sports butcher the fan noise. I don't know if that happens on the US feed as well, Sinan, because I know you watch the US feed.
It does a bit.
It does? But it's terrible on the Turkish feed. It's absolutely horrible. So that's like... Yeah.
I was watching Ego Media the other day, and they were actually talking about how it's not just the TV revenue that's came down, but beIN are actually investing a lot less money in the product itself, like in the broadcast.
Yeah,
it's clear
compared to what they used to. I mean, see, if you think back to the league TV games, we used to get so much content. Like there'd be like the mission give you a bit of a build up, like behind the scenes to the match and after it and stuff like that. You don't get anything like that anymore.
Only for the
Like
derbies.
the product itself is like dialed way down.
Yeah.
All I know is like watching beIN has become increasingly difficult, because it used to be that they had like a Roku app and a smart TV app, and Their website was UI was pretty solid, so you could find what you were looking for quite easily. Nowadays, it's like a crapshoot, and they cross their channels. So if you click via the channel option, you'll get the wrong thing. And so like Nathan Davis, what is it, Mr. Baseball, I think, in the shout-outs, he was talking about how they were playing an African the CAF, the Champions League there. Instead of the Beşiktaş match on that channel, and I because I had found it via a different link because I liked the Super League or something, so it surprised me. So I went to that link and I clicked directly on our game, and so I was watching the game while he was struggling with the African Champions League. So there's just no intuitive system in place anymore. It seems like they've cut corners everywhere.
Yeah, but beIN has been struggling financially for a couple of years. But that's also part of to bring it all back to the whole corruption thing. The fact that beIN Sports were able to renew the contract last year, where Saran Media, I know he's a big Fenerbahçe guy, but they were offering more money. And Büyükeşi, who is a big Galatasaray guy, he didn't want Saran to get the rights, so they did an under-the-table deal with beIN Sports for less money. It was a big scandal last year.
It's not just that as well, Kat. If I remember correctly, the beIN deal is in Turkish lira, where Saran were offering to pay in euros as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's even more scandalous.
Saran were going to pay 100% in euros, and beIN Sports only pay 50% in euros or dollars or something, and then the other 50% is in lira. So that's like it was.
So guys, out of curiosity, if Saran had won, what would have been their distributor abroad, or they would have sold rights?
I'd imagine they would have. Hopefully, they would have made a service for abroad.
Well, they would have then,
or they would have probably sold the rights to an ESPN or a Paramount or something like that. They probably would have probably been much better for me.
They probably would have then purchased Digiturk, right? They would have, because that's what happened last time when beIN Sports bought the rights. They bought Digiturk outright. So I would imagine Saran Media would then maybe buy out Digiturk or something, because that would have zero value for beIN Sports I guess they could still have basketball rights and stuff like that, but who's gonna pay for that, right? Some people will, but it will be very minimal. I don't know exactly what the distribution would look like, but there would 100% be international distribution, because a big chunk of the money coming into Digiturk is foreign money, is diaspora money, from Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, France, all over the world, Australia, the US, they get so much money from all these diaspora Turks, it isn't as bad anymore, because I feel like Digiturk nowadays is pretty cheap to get. I just renewed for 99 euros. But when I started, back in 2011 or something, when I started to buy it myself, because before that I always used to go watch the games with my dad in a Turkish cafe or something or whatever. But since I started buying it myself, in the beginning, I think I paid 500 euros for 2 years or something. I think it was $2.99 for a year, and then it was $4.50 for 2 years. So the 2-year deal was cheaper. It was $4.49 for 2 years,
I remember that.
and $2.99 for a year. But can you imagine? I used to pay 15 years ago 299 euros for a year. Now you can get it for 99 euros. So Digiturk has become a lot more affordable to us diaspora Turks. But back then they were milking us, man. They were milking us hard, because in Turkey it was super cheap. But now it's kind of leveled out. I don't know exactly how much you pay in Turkey for an annual package, but I can imagine it's close to what I'm paying right now.
I mean, it's ironic though, and it shows you how stupid their thinking was. They used to put up all these ads don't illegally stream. We're gonna come and find you type shit. Yeah. And it's all you had to do was just make this thing slightly more affordable, so people want a stable stream, and they're actually willing to pay money. It's just you can't make it $700.
Maybe man. That was also
no one's willing to pay.
They made it a lot cheap. This is a significant change, right? From almost 300 euros to 100 euros. That's massive. So it's kind of going backwards, right? Because everywhere else in the world, packages are getting more expensive. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to know the numbers on that, like if they're
so
making more money or if they have more subscription or.
But like
I'm so
in
curious.
The mid 2010s, they were paying annually $550 million or something in TV rights fees to the league. And now, how much are they paying now? Kata, like 150 or something?
It's considerably lower, man. I can't remember the exact.
It's considerably lower, but that also apparently translates to the cost of the service, because I guess they were, I don't know. It's funny that they actually translated it, but I guess the numbers were, or there was so much piracy. There must have been so much piracy that they had to lower the prices, otherwise they weren't selling or something. Clearly there was an issue there, because otherwise you don't lower your price from 300 to 100. You don't do that, right?
But another point, and I don't know where this factors in, but in this age of sort of digitization, you probably need so many fewer people to get streams going, right? Than you used to. Like you used to have a studio and different cameramen, and you needed this whole operation in place, and it's so much like there's so much less requirements nowadays. You can film high quality stuff on much cheaper, equipment. I mean, one wonders.
$1 million was the last one, apparently.
How much?
According to the TFF website. $182 million.
Yeah, so from 550 to 182, that's a massive decline.
That's crazy.
And if you look at the Premier League,
I wonder what's going on.
Made at the time, and so if half of that was paid in Turkish lira, half of that's lost a lot of value.
Yeah.
You need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, because like when they made that deal, the lira was like 35. Like €1 was like 35 lira or 33 lira or something, and now it's like 45. €1 is 44, 45 lira. So just in that not even a year, it devalues so much. Like it's completely unstable. Like if you like in cryptocurrency, you have the stable coins. Well, the lira is an unstable coin.
Let's talk about this game a little bit, guys.
Yeah, let's continue talking about this lineup a little bit. So,
are we still doing
you asked if we were surprised with Amir getting in, right?
Oh, well, also, so defense. What do you guys think of the defenders this match? Paulista and Emirhan.
They were both
pretty
solid,
good, right?
I thought they were both solid. I thought that both Svensson and Masuaku weren't
not Masuaku. Emrecan. Masuaku didn't play. Remember, it was suspended.
Emrecan. Yeah, Emrecan got looked bad on the goal. But also Svensson was struggling against Jolson Fernandez. So on the wings, I thought we weren't great. Although Emrecan does technically also get an assist in this game for Rafa's goal. I thought Emrecan actually, I didn't think he was bad, but he just on that goal he didn't look good. But
I mean, it was a youthful mistake, kind of clumsy.
Yeah, he just came out himself too early.
But I actually thought Svensson was soft. I was worried about him recently. He was much better on the ball and more kind of comfortable. But you're right, going back. Yeah, I mean that Joelson guy was so fast that. He helped there on occasion. Paulista was great, by the way, in sort of supporting him there.
Yeah, Paulista was great again.
But so all right, that's it for the back line. Emrecan, we probably could have said more, but I don't know. I need to see more. Like I'm gonna do my Schwarting report soon because it's the end of the month, just about. And I think my grade for him is going to be an incomplete, and it's not because he wasn't really good in his one match. It's just he's played one match all season. So I need to see. I need a larger sample size.
You need to take that into consideration.
He was definitely good
as well, though, right? Because he's been out injured for so long, and for this to be the first match and to actually look decent. Kudos to him, right?
Pretty decent, yeah.
I mean, it's not easy. Like
he came ready to play.
How often do we see players coming back from a long period of absence and they kind of look, they don't look great. They aren't fit. You know, they're hesitant, especially when you're coming off an injury. So I definitely think that Emre Can deserves some credit for that.
Yeah, and his numbers were pretty solid too, from what I recall.
On Rafa's goal, like, okay, the assist isn't much of an assist. It was a fantastic goal from Rafa, but see the press to get that to win the ball. That was very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that attack.
Yeah.
He was putting up. He had a good game. He had a really good game. I mean, not a really good game, but all things considered, like given his youth.
Yeah, but also take into consideration
injury,
if Masuaku gets the ball in that position, he probably just tries to throw it in front of the goal, right? And Emre Can actually does look for the pass. So.
Yeah, what I said is, like, see that press to win that ball upfield, that's not in Masuaku's playbook either. I don't think in 3 years we've once seen Masuaku do that, like press high up and win a ball.
Yeah. So
I'm not sure about that, but
kudos to Emre Can.
Yeah. He was good though. I gotta see more. And I mean, given that Masuaku's contract running out, we might as well see. I mean, I'm curious to see how much of Emre Can we're going to see throughout the rest of the season. Midfield, we had Amir Hadziometo and Jedson Fernandes. Jedson was, I thought, really solid. Almost scored, as we said earlier, hit the post. And I still think he almost scored again later in the match, but I can't recall. I just watched the highlight.
Both were solid, right?
Yeah,
probably Amir's best match since he's been back.
Yes. And his defense, he's had 2 solid outings in a row. The last match was like, okay, he might be okay. And this match, I think he quite clearly was okay.
If you look at that first chance for Immobile, that comes from Amir pressing, winning the ball.
He has the hockey assist, yeah. And
then also for the Immobile header chance, it's Amir's through ball to the wing to find Rashica. The crosses in, and then also for Immobile's goal, Amir drives the ball far up the pitch and finds Rashica on the wing. So very, very impressive game in terms of passing and pressing as well from Amir.
Noticed, so his problem is he's good defender on the counter. He can reverse play quickly and he's solid. Problematic when he has to sort of be back and defend. Like his positional awareness is lacking. I noticed he kind of gets out of position sometimes, or he tries to make a run too soon and it kind of opens up a chance for the opposition. So, like, you know, we were saying that Hatay had too many chances. A lot of those were coming from the back of our midfield, and so I still feel like we're kind of lacking a 6. I don't know. I mean, maybe Hadziometo is more of an 8, actually, and obviously Jedson, you know, he is what he is too. So
yeah,
I don't know. You know, he was good, but we still lacked a 6 somehow.
I want to say something about Jedson as well. Seeing the 20 minutes that I watched live, I felt Jedson on the left flank was very, very dangerous. He was beating men down that left. He was coming into the box, looking to make some passes. I thought he was very, very dangerous on the left, and I'd like to see him more on that left flank.
Yeah, he had a great game.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did.
He was good. He was good. And then finally, our last piece of the midfield puzzle is Rafa Silva, who, in a season of outstanding performances, might have had his best. I mean, he was phenomenal in this match, wasn't he?
I wouldn't.
He gave it. I think did he earn both of the penalties?
He won the first one.
He won the.
He definitely won the
second
first
one. Ciro won it, I guess you could say, because
Ciro
controls
chests it, and then the guy's up.
Oh, the hand. Yeah, the hand.
He controls it with his hand, with his chest, and then the guy really like. I mean, it was 100% a penalty because he's blatantly using his hand to get the ball out of control, because Ciro is in control of the ball there. So that was like super stupid.
Yeah.
Stonewall penalty. And I thought there was actually a penalty earlier in the match as well, where Mustafa gets what they call a shoulder to shoulder. That was a shoulder to shoulder blade challenge. And the irony is that a little bit later, Joelson Fernandes gets an actual shoulder to shoulder, goes down, and the ref gives a foul.
And they call the foul. And that was like the next play too. Yeah,
and a free kick in a dangerous position for Hatay. But the shoulder to shoulder blade in the penalty box, he doesn't give. That was a penalty for me. because
I disagree, man. Not for me. I saw that position live.
If you push someone in the back, it's a penalty, Kartal. You can't just barge into somebody's back like that.
It looked shoulder to shoulder from.
Dude, it's not. I know shoulder blade is technically part of your shoulder, but that's not a shoulder to shoulder challenge. Eh? Shoulder to shoulder is on the shoulder, not on the back of the shoulder. That's a penalty, man. Every day.
Well, anyway, guys, would you guys agree that... So, is Rafa Silva your man of the match? Or Ciro?
No, definitely not Ciro. I think it has to be Rafa because...
So then it has to be Rafa.
Rafa wins the penalty to get us level, and then he kills the game with a really quick third goal. After we scored the second.
Man, and a beauty. Yeah,
because I think Hatay were dangerous enough that if it's 2-1 and we don't score the third one quickly, that's a game that could still go either way.
See, I didn't watch the full game, but see, going off the highlights, and then I've spoke to my brother as well. It was Jan who watched the full game. He reckons I'm the man of the match. I think, going from what I saw in the highlights as well, that's a shout as well, because a lot of the danger comes through Ami on this game. I think he's definitely a good as well.
Yeah.
Good. I don't think I
definitely
give him man of the match.
Ami is a great shout too, but it is Rafa who forces the 1-1. It is Rafa who ices the game. Also, like,
burns the penalty,
and just I noticed,
and it's a vital penalty too. We need it's always that first goal that we struggle for the most.
It is a super vital penalty, because if you I know this game finishes 5-1, and it may not look like it, but right after we come out of the dressing room for the second half, Strandberg needs to score, and then it's 1-2, because that's a 100% chance for Hatay. And if Strandberg scores
that was so stressful.
Then we're on the ropes, and then I don't think we win this game.
I think they had 200% chances, man.
Sorry?
They had 2 100% chances in that second half. One for Strandberg, and I think another one might have been Joelson.
Yeah, but the one for Strandberg right after halftime is at 1-1. Yeah. If they score that, if they score at 3-1 or at 4-1, it doesn't really. It's not that big of a deal. But at 1-1, if they score, you know our team, right? Those heads go down, and it's over. So if he scores that, I know the game ends 5-1, but it could have just as easily gone the other way if Strandberg scores that goal. And let's have a look at these numbers, because I'm sure that Hatay, you can see it.
Well, hold on, Khan. Real quick, before we do that, let me just quickly round out the roster. Two more. Our wings, so we had. I would say maybe Rashica's best match of the season, because he actually had a really good pass, a good cross. Granted, on the ground, which is where those happen.
I didn't think.
And then, of course, Mustafa. Well, then there's Mustafa Hekimolu, who I think people had been very happy with, but this might not have been his best performance. What did you guys think?
Worked his socks off again.
That's what he did. Right?
I mean, when I watched him play for the academy, he was always playing on the wings, which I thought was weird. And I remember when he first showed his head at the window last year, and then he scored the goal in the Super Cup. People were talking about him as a striker all the time, and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was talking about him as a striker. But whenever I watched him play in the academy, for some reason, they put him on the wing. So I was like, I don't know if this guy, and it's not like he was scoring a bunch of goals at youth level. And I'd be lying if I told you that I watched 30 games of him at youth level. I didn't, but I've watched a couple of under 19 games, and including one where he scored a brace, but he was coming from the right, not from the left, but from the right in those games. And I always thought that was weird, because if he's such a big striker talent, which everyone claims he is, why do they even put him in the under 19s on the wing, right?
Makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And now as well, Ole is playing him more as a winger. Even the previous game where Ciro didn't play, where he was technically the number 9 on the pitch. He was always on the left, always on the wing.
Yeah.
Creating space for Rafa.
Yeah.
And, I mean...
I think that's especially strange considering Ole didn't even compare him to Erling Haaland.
Yeah, yeah. But it doesn't surprise me because of those under 19 games, because he never really struck me as a pure striker. He has the build for it. Yeah. You know, he's tall, he's strong, he's pretty fast, but he doesn't have that Thor instinct, that nose for the goal. I don't see that in him. I don't know if that's something that's...
He's only 17, so that could take time to develop.
But if you look at Simi, for example, at 16 years old, like he was scoring goals like crazy. Like Mustafa isn't like that, and never has been, as far as I can tell, even in the youth ranks. So while I do think that he's a talent, I don't know if his future really lies as a number 9, and if it does, I think he's gonna be a very different type of number 9 than you would traditionally expect. I don't think he's ever gonna be a striker that bags you 20-25 goals consistently in a season. I think you'll be happy. You know, kind of like with Almeida and Bobo, who scored 13 goals in the league season. I thought Bobo was a great goal scorer, by the way. But I think that Mustafa, I don't know, I think 10 goals a season is going to be a lot for him in the coming years. Maybe he develops it, but in this game, I don't really remember him standing out much. I remember the previous game, I thought he was really good, and he was like one of my men of the match. I think I even gave it him last week. But this game, you know, I don't know. There were other players who stepped up and who stole the show. You know, Jetson, Amir, Rafa, obviously Ciro with the hat-trick, but, you know, hat-trick with 2 penalties, it's a little easy, right? It's a little cheap, but it's a hat-trick nonetheless. So Mustafa didn't say
that's the last piece of the lineup that we haven't talked about is Cheetah. You guys have any comment there? How about you, Carter? How do you feel about Cheetah this week?
He scored 2 penalties, which obviously, and he scored that goal from open play as well. But in that first half, like that chance that Amir created, man, he should be scoring that. And then for the money he gets, you'd hope to score that header as well that he should get found him with. So, look, he's not suddenly worth 6 million.
I don't know if I agree with that, Cathal. If you look at the chances that Osimhen misses, like, you can't. I think that's a little harsh. But
I'll give you the first one.
The first
one that he sent wide,
but
should have been a goal.
He doesn't actually. The goalkeeper gets a touch, so we don't get a corner. But the goalkeeper, apparently, I didn't see it, but I saw other people saying it in the chat. I think that the goalkeeper got a touch, and I haven't.
He certainly thought so.
Yeah, he definitely thought so. But like when I look at the replay, and I didn't see the touch myself, but I feel like he did everything well. Like he bends his body, he tries to curl it around the goalkeeper. But yeah, he should 100% be scoring that if the goalkeeper doesn't get a touch. If the goalkeeper gets a touch, then I think you just have to say, great save. Because I think Ciro did everything right in terms of trying to bend it around the keeper. You know, and if the keeper...
Well, and so I had said 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was even already in the last Schwarting report or something, but that I was hopeful that in these last 2 months or whatever it was at the time, that Ciro could recapture some of that form he had at the beginning of the season. And even if he only got, rather than 10 goals, 5, if he could end the season with 15 goals and maybe just get enough attention from someone that they're like, oh, we got to bring this guy in. I did.
Oh. I think...
And I didn't, after his last few performances, I thought that was impossible.
Yeah, you know what?
And so I was sort of disappointed with that. But now he's up to 14.
Yeah, but see, now this game...
Yes, 14.
This game should have come 3 months ago. Because he said it after the game as well. For him, it was really important to score goals and to tank confidence. But I think this game, it just comes way too late. I think if he played,
sure. Oh, for sure.
Remember the Adana Demirspor game? I think we were all like, Ciro, maybe he can get a hat-trick and he can get going again. He needed it then.
Yeah.
I think he might have actually missed the Adana Demirspor game due to suspension actually. But I remember a couple of times where we had a game that on paper we should be winning easily, and we were saying to each other, this is the game where Ciro needs to score a hat-trick so he can tank some confidence and so he can launch himself again for the rest of the season. Now we're at the end of the season. There's very little to play for. Obviously, third place and fourth place is very important for us, but you know, we aren't playing for any trophies anymore. We're out of the cup. We're out of the title race. This game comes too late. Like, he can go on and score 7 more goals in the next 5 matches, but it won't really mean a lot, right? He can finish the season on 20.
Well, so I guess this was my
goals.
point then, and I wonder what you guys think. Like, what for him to go back to Italy? There's supposedly was interest, at some point in January. What would it take for him to get that move? Would he need
open play
20 goals? Like, how many goals erases the the doubts that someone who's actually scouted him would have and say, you know what, like, we've got to bring him in because he could help us at enough chance.
See, I don't like any serious football club signs Ciro Immobile based off of his Beşiktaş performance, unless it's like something like it'll only be some joke of us, like a certain or whatever. They'll actually come in.
What about like a Monza, or like a lower level Serie A team?
Yeah, but I think Monza's a serious team, and I don't think they're going to bring this guy based off of this performance, because they'll see all you need to do is go and Fortmob and see that 8 of those 14 goals are penalties, man.
Yeah, but that's what that's what Sinan is saying. What would it require Ciro to do in the next couple of games to maybe make a team like Udinese, Monza, Cagliari think, maybe we
score
should...
5.
Sorry, what?
5 goals, you say?
Go between 3 and 5 goals from open play, possibly.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. He needs to start scoring goals from open play, and he needs to, 3, 4, 5 goals from open play. He needs to show that he's got the nose for goal back. Because if you look, like we talked about it so much this season, for like 6 months, I was saying he doesn't get enough chances. We don't create chances for him.
I was gonna say this,
and that was true for the first couple of months of the season. But then he started getting the odd good chance from open play, and he wasn't putting them away. And I understand, Osimhen and Neziri, they get 3-4 chances per game, and they score a bunch of goals, but they miss a lot of chances. But I think
I was gonna say exactly this.
But at the same time, if you're Ciro Immobile, former European Golden Boot, 35 years old, 6-time top scorer in Serie A, I think, or something like that, or 4 times top scorer in Serie A. I think you need to be able. Also, it's very important when you age as a striker, as Ciro, unfortunately, he's older. You are going to get less chances because you don't have the physical ability. Like if you watch,
you're not going to put yourself in those chances.
If you look at Osimhen, he creates so many chances for himself because of the physical specimen and the beast that he is. He just wrestles himself past defenders. He goes after balls that if Ciro would go after it, it would be lost. Because either he doesn't get to it or the defender gets to it first or whatever. And I'm not saying Ciro is slow or anything like that, but he doesn't have that physical explosiveness that an Osimhen has. He doesn't have the presence in the air that En-Nesyri has. So he needs to...
Well, so I don't know if you on this goal this week.
Let me finish this point for a second. So it's very important for a player like Ciro, an aging striker, that they convert they're going to get fewer chances than prime strikers like Osimhen. So if Osimhen gets 3 chances per game and maybe he scores 1 goal, Ciro is going to get 1 chance per game maybe, but he needs to be scoring those chances. And he hasn't been doing that in recent months. And I do agree that Beşiktaş as a team, as a big team, we need to be creating more. But if you're looking at a Monza, at a Cagliari, teams like that who are lower in the standings, And if they want to get an experienced striker like Ciro, Cagliari and Monza aren't going to create the amount of chances that Inter creates for Lisandro Martinez, right? Or Lisandro? Is it Lisandro?
Sure.
So
Lisandro.
so Ciro
Lautaro.
needs to show in the coming matches
Lautaro.
that he can... Yeah, Lautaro, sorry. Lisandro is a defender, I think. He needs to show in the coming matches that he can still score goals from open play, and he can be... he needs to be lethal, and he hasn't been lethal. And sorry to put you off there, but...
Yeah, no, I was going to... I don't know if you guys noticed. So the goal that he scored this week was a low cross by where he beat his man, right?
Yeah.
And he used some of that speed that we say he's lacking. And so it showed... I mean, part of me thinks maybe he's finally coming back from that injury that was plaguing him for much of the season earlier. And he can finally get that like extra step that he wasn't getting maybe for some of the season. But I also saw the way he ran over to Rashica and he was like, yes, like that's the pass.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
But how many of those goals
and
has he
you
scored
could almost
this season?
sense.
Right?
No, but and I think you could almost sense that he was like, where has that delivery been, Milo? You know, like, come on, guy.
Where have those runs been, right? Like, he hasn't been making those runs.
Sure.
And I agree.
But I also wonder, Khan, though, I wonder, and this goes back to where you were going earlier with your point. If he had been provided the amount of chances that Osimhen has been provided all season, and let's say he does have like 10 more goals from open play, I do feel like this would be an entirely different his impact.
Yeah,
individually.
100%. If he has 10 more goals from open play, then he's a success. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And Benitez Como might pursue Cheetah. They even got Varane.
They have
anyway.
Dele Alli as well, right?
That's right. Let's do stats quickly. Let's wrap this match talk up once and for all. So, Beşiktaş had 52% of the ball. They're 48. I bet it was even higher than that until we had such a commanding lead that we kind of started sitting back a little bit. We had an XG of 3.29 to their 1.03. Still, as you guys have said, a little high on their end, which you don't want to see. And that's evidenced also by the fact that although we had 16 shots, they had 15. 8 of ours were on target, only 6 of theirs. We had 5 big chances. They had 2. We both missed 1, which is interesting. Only 363 passes completed by us, 342 completed by them. Both teams were very efficient with their passing. Hatay actually even more so, 85% efficiency with their passing to our 83. But, you know, again, solid possession style of play from both sides for much of this game. Pretty decent passing, it looks like. Both sides committed 7 fouls, 2 offsides for Beşiktaş to their 4 corners apiece. So, you know, back and forth in that regard. And regarding those fouls, I'll just do the discipline since it feels like those should be linked. They had 1 yellow card. We had none, no red cards to either side. So it was a relatively clean game. And I will say that although we've highlighted some negative aspects of the ref, I don't think it was so bad. I mean, he didn't really leave much of an impression on me this match, aside from the shoulder charge, which I do think was a penalty. To weigh in on that.
Mentioning as well that they this graphic is from right after the game. And Özcan has mentioned this a few times that sometimes the XG still changes a little bit. So ours stayed the same, but they retroactively changed.
Theirs went up a little bit. 1.1,
1.10, 1.1. So it's gone up a little bit. I think that's fair because I think Hatay had a decent amount of good chances. Yeah.
They did.
I mean, Gata mentioned it, right? They had
on another day, they probably could have shithoused the result.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if Strandberg scores that goal, like I said, I think this is a different game, and I don't think we win it. And that's sometimes you just need to. I think for us, very often this season, we have been in the situation where we don't score when we need to score. We're creating chances. We have momentum. We don't score, then the opponent scores, and then our head drops. Right? That's usually.
Yeah.
How it tends to go. You want to get those duels?
Which is a positive. How about them duels, Cartel? But just real quick, I mean, that's a positive too, Con, right? That we actually responded well this time and, we finally got that win that we've been waiting for months.
Yeah.
You know, multi-goal
what it
win.
feels like, yeah.
Anyway, Carter, how about them duels?
Jules 46 to 40 in our favour, so we won 53%. Ground Jules was 50% each, 32. Aerial Jules won. We won 14. They won 8. Successful dribbles. We had 10 successful dribbles and we completed 48% of our dribbles successfully, which means we attempted 21. They had a 64% successful dribble completion rate. They had 9, which means they probably attempted 17 or 18 in the game. In terms of yellow cards, they had 1. We didn't have any yellow cards in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, this is the thing that kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier, and what Kafa was saying earlier about the change in quality in the league. Like, I feel like as well, like we were talking about offensive players, but also defensively. If you look at that back line from Hatayspor, there isn't really a defender there that jumps out to me. And where, like, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, guys, there was this guy called, I think his name was Carlos Mina. I think he was playing for Hatayspor. And I just remember thinking, this is like this guy's a wall at the back. And, you know, there's been, you know, a lot of those players, I feel like, who played for Bursaspor, who played for Malatya, who played for Antep, who played for this and that and that. Like, they always have like a couple of, like players that you think, okay, those players add flavor to the league. They're good defenders, they're good wingers, good strikers, good midfielders. And there's just much less of that right now. And I think Hatay up top have a couple of fun players, but then at the back it feels like, you know, Kamil Churekci, he's like, I think like 10 years ago when he was Başakşehir, he was a talent, but it feels like he's been kind of like a he didn't really amount to much. It's just, the quality just isn't there right now compared to 10 years ago. I think the rest of the league was just so much more competitive.
I've been saying for years, man, so I'm happy that you finally came on board with this opinion.
Yeah, but this is something that has changed mainly in the 2010s, though. 2020s, sorry, because like, you know, post-Corona especially, like, because this wasn't, I did think this wasn't really an issue until like the Corona, 2022, 2023, it really started to come into, like, the last 3 seasons, it's been super tangible. I think before that, it wasn't that bad. You know, the league was still very competitive.
I think the league's been on the down. I think the top teams have been on the collapse since 2018. And then
since Trabzon won the league, that's kind of when it started, like the entire shift of the league. Because if you remember, Trabzon were like miles ahead of everyone else, and then they, like, the last 10 games they barely won, but they were so far ahead already that they, you know, they couldn't be touched anymore. But I feel like that's where it started. That's where you, like, if you look in the last 25 years, how often do you see a team run away with it? Like, it happens so rarely. But like the last 2 years, Galatasaray has just been running away with it. I know Fenerbahçe have been keeping up this year and last season, kind of, but always, like, you know, behind still. Trabzon ran away with it.
Let's be honest. Fenerbahçe aren't a serious competition. Like, I mean, it's been 11 years since they won the title. Yeah. If someone's going to stop this Galatasaray team, it's not going to be Fenerbahçe. It's going to be us. It's going to be Beşiktaş.
Well, traditionally we are their Angstgegners when it comes to title races. There's one team Galatasaray doesn't want to be in a title race with, and that's Beşiktaş traditionally.
I think there's one team that no one wants to be in a title race with, and that's Beşiktaş.
Yep.
I feel pretty good about that statement.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, see, like, we support, like, the most special club in the country. Even some commentators are saying Turkish football is good when Beşiktaş is good.
Mm-hmm.
They basically say when Beşiktaş fall behind like they have just now, it just turns into a competition between two spoiled brats and who can get their way more off of the authorities. But when we the quality of the competition goes up drastically, and I think that's true, man.
It is, yeah.
That can't be denied at all.
It is true because it's just been like, it isn't an interesting race to follow. It's just too bitches throwing mud at each other all the time, you know, and like they're trying to one up each other in how, like it's like watching two Karens fight. I think that's the perfect analogy. Watching two Karens fight. That's these
and
two.
the wine they do about the same things. Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah. Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe.
Oh my God, they're cheating so much.
That should be the
and it's funny because if you, as a Beşiktaş fan, if you make a comment about how corrupt the league, you'll see Galatasaray and Fener fans agreeing with you in the comments, and it's like, you fucking assholes! Like, you're both the problem. Like, don't even be in here talking to me.
Yeah. Like, I love, you know, Fenerbahçe and Fenerbahçe fans are always trying to look for sympathy with like Beşiktaş and Fenerbahçe, Beşiktaş and Trabzon and all other fans. But like everyone's like, dude, seriously, like you are so unself-aware. Like, I mean, only Galatasaray is more unself-aware than, like, they're the most oblivious of them all. But Fener are pretty damn oblivious, man. Like, and the only thing you can say to Fener is, the only thing they have kind of going for them is the fact that they haven't won in 11 years. But, like the amount of help they get to stay where they are, you know, like, I think any other big club, if they haven't won it for 11 years, they wouldn't be where they are right now. Like, look at Arsenal.
They'd like take a hit in terms of relevance.
They take a hit, yeah. They take a hit. Like Fener doesn't take a hit. Somehow Fener is still like, you know, the biggest club, so to speak, right? Like, but no, like
in their minds at the very least. Or no, in fact, that's their like catchphrase, isn't it?
In their minds, but also in how they get pushed by the media and. You know, by the country as a whole, but like it's still all Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray. Like it's always them too. And even though Fenerbahçe haven't really been super relevant in terms of, you know, trophies, but like they keep themselves there because of the amount of crying they do, because of the amount of whining, and you know the very influential people that head that club. You know, because Ali Koç is one of the most important people in Turkey. You know, he's one of he's one of the richest people in Turkey. He's not the head of, but he's a very big, high up in arguably the most important company in the country, right? The Koç Holding is arguably
I wonder if Fener fans have that self-awareness where, you know, I think so many of them are probably turning on Ali Koç because of the lack of success, but if they're aware of the fact that it's probably only because of him that they've maintained that relevance, despite, you know, pretty poor planning, you know, squad-wise and all that.
But don't you think that's why they've stuck with him? I think any other...
I mean, some people are aware, but I mean specifically those fans, though, you know?
Yeah, but, like, I mean, you know, like, Aziz Yildirim, like, he had credit, right? Because he had won plenty of trophies, he had done a lot for the club, you know, like, renovate Sucruciașul and stuff like that. Like, he had a lot of credit, but he eventually ran out. But Ali Koç, like, the credit that he has is unseen because he hasn't won anything significantly other than one Turkish Cup. He's lost, and you know, they lost everything under Ali Koç. If you think about it, their 20-year unbeaten streak in their own stadium against their arch rivals gone out the window. In fact, in the last 3 or 4 years, they've lost like 3 times to Galatasaray at home. Like, they barely win derbies. Like, they've gone from a club that were, you know, I would argue under Aziz Yildirim, they were a very good performer in derby matches. Now they've gone to the worst. They're the worst performer in the derby matches. You know, not just the Galatasaray games, but the Beşiktaş games too. Even the Trabzon, like they've lost to Trabzon for the first time at home in super long as well. Stuff like that. So, like,
and we had beat them in the Sarajevo for 15 and a half years before the 2020-2021 season, and 2 years ago we beat them in the Sarajevo again, the famous Redmond game. I mean, up until last season, like, we hadn't lost them in 4 years, home and away, until last season.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. What can you say? Let's do some comments. Let's talk about some comments, guys. So Finnish Kebab was first in the chat. We should give like a point system. I'll power rank our listeners in the.
We'll get like a stamp card, and you know.
Yeah, you get points. 10 points for commenting first.
Yeah,
exactly.
if you get 10 stamps, you get a free Finnish kebab.
I'm actually going to introduce my power ranking system in my next Schwarting report.
Reindeer dinner.
Legit. I've got a whole power ranking system now for a monthly power ranking, like best players, like a list, and then a season one. But so maybe I'll bring the fans into that. Start judging you guys. How do you like them apples? No, I'm kidding. Finnish Kebab says the Samsun Eyüp match is next week, which is correct.
By the way,
we'll see if Eyüp can get their shit together then.
The Göztepe Başakşehir match finished, by the way, 4-1 to Göztepe.
Oh, so we're almost locked into fourth, fellas.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
Still 5 games to go, so wouldn't quite call the lock at all with our form, but it's good.
I said almost.
It's good.
We're getting there. If we can get points against Fener,
if we get points against Fener, it will be huge. Like even if it's just the 1 point, that would be massive.
Mm-hmm.
But
Finnish Kebab also said that Strandberg was born in Sweden. His father is a Sweden. His mother is Portuguese. So that answers my quandary.
Yes.
Billy Erdogan, good to see you back, Billy. Said that Gain TV is the Saran owned entity, I suppose. Okay. Maybe that's what would be.
Gain?
The broadcast.
Gain Media, the alleged sponsor from that we signed a deal with, but still nothing has been announced about it, I think. Right? If you remember, Gain Media and and Rams. Sedladal signed deals with them, but we still haven't heard what those deals entail.
Yeah, Sedladal has gone sort of oddly quiet with some of the stuff lately. Kanto Bueno says Ciro would start in the Fener game based on the Hatay performance. We are so doomed. And then he says that Como Ciro, they even... I already mentioned that. Would we be doomed for playing Ciro against Fener, guys? What are your thoughts on that?
We won the home game thanks to Ciro. Like if not for Ciro, we don't score that goal. So I don't agree with that. What do you think, Kata?
I think they want to see the false 9 tactic against Fenerbahçe. I think I want to see that as well, because I think in recent times that's the way how we've played the best football.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, debatable, right? I think you could probably argue the best football was Hatay with striker up top. But, certainly we played good football. Like that win against Galatasaray was good.
Yeah, seen in this game, obviously I only watched 20 minutes of it live, and I've seen the highlights, but the bit I watched, we didn't look good. And then, from what I've read, we didn't really start getting going until that second penalty. So if it took 2 penalties for us to start playing well,
I think that's. I would say that's bad journalism. Insofar as I think we were the better side throughout the match. We looked the more likely to score until the goal that they scored, and then we responded to the goal and still looked the much more likely to score the next one. I would argue that point. I mean, I think you could say that there was some flaws as far as going back in defense, and again, I would put that on the back of our midfield a little bit. But
I mean, we hit the.
I thought it was some of our best attacking football.
Exactly. We hit the bar with Fernandes at 0-0. Ciro missed.
I was on to the box.
Yeah, but it's still.
Yes, it was.
It's still a good.
That was close.
That's still a really good attack. And then we have the 100% chance for Ciro. Then you have the header for Ciro. That's all at 0-0 or at 1-0 for Hatay or whatever. So we were
even like see the first chance for Ciro that comes off of like a press from Amir. So and then we went did we have like sustained periods of playing dominant? Would you say?
Yes, I think so.
I think
much of the game actually.
I think we were pushing them. I mean, winning the ball in the opposition's half. That's isn't that what dominance is?
Yeah, no.
And I think Cartel, the fear that you always have, like, oh, they could score, and like we were saying, like it could have been different if Stromberg had scored. It's not because we weren't ascendant and dominant and had more of the ball and creating more chances. It's just where we've been as a club, and that at any moment you can just shit the bed, and the other guys have which is basically what happened with their first goal. Actually,
I would argue if we're playing like we did on Friday, under normal circumstances where we aren't a feeble mental case that as soon as you hit, get some adversary, you just bam, you drop like a sack of potatoes. Because we have had this multiple times this season, like in away at Bodo Glimt, for example. Go 1-0 up, we're playing great, should score the second. Oh, we concede, and suddenly it's like a souffle, bam, going down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's been our season. I feel like in a normal season where you can continue to build on your momentum, the performance on Friday, if we would have conceded against that Strandberg goal at the start of the second half, you feel like, it doesn't matter. We'll just go up and over them. We'll keep pushing. We'll keep playing. The problem with this season is that if we concede that goal, you just know that their heads would drop. But I think under, if under normal circumstances with the football we were playing up until that point, I would argue that I would have been confident in a comeback. Just not this season and last season because we've been so mentally feeble.
Yeah.
But, I definitely think that.
But anyway.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, but so that's my only anyway. We don't need to it's fine. And then we have an interesting comment. AYZ says, if you are Turkish, why are you speaking English? And I feel like we do this once a month. And we're not going to get angry about it. It is what it is.
Because we're
trying to broaden the appeal of our club. Yeah, we're trying to send out the word to the world that we're a big club that people should pay attention to. We're creating content, of course, for Beşiktaş fans, but also to try to attract new fans. In addition to serve the diaspora who maybe their Turkish isn't great, or in some people's cases, maybe it doesn't exist at all, hypothetically speaking, which is the case for me. Doğukan Konuş says, good evening, boys. Anyone aware of a Beşiktaş pub/group in London?
No, but I don't know.
You guys,
there is Chelsea London, but I don't know if there's a pub where they gather. I'd imagine there would be, man. So if you maybe search for Chelsea London on Facebook or whatever, they might have a group where you could get some information. But for a fact, if they gather to watch games together, no, I don't.
Yeah. There was a couple, 10 years ago, there was even the Beşiktaş London Academy, which wasn't actually, it was affiliated with the club, but it was started up by people there, and they had to pay the club a fee to use the name. So they had some very mild affiliation, I guess, because they were paying the club to use the name. But there's definitely a lot of people in London that support Beşiktaş, and I think, like Katal said, if you maybe go on Facebook or something and go on their page, the Chelsea London page, maybe you'll find some people to hang out with and watch games with. When I went
Reddit, maybe check out Reddit.
Yeah, when I went to matches against Arsenal, against Tottenham and stuff like that, there was definitely a lot of people from Chelsea Londra there, so there's definitely a contingent, but I unfortunately don't know. Someone I know might know, but I don't know how much.
Maybe Dennis would know.
Maybe Dennis.
We'll ask around. I
mean, I think it's easiest if you just
keep checking in.
It's probably easiest if you just
keep checking in.
On
if you don't find an answer on Reddit or wherever, and maybe we'll have an answer for you in the future. Con 2.0, because we're all members of English practice group and football is the topic of the week. That was regarding why do we do this in English. And he says, please give me enough points to get out of orange. I hate orange.
Orange?
Sorry, Con 2.0. He means the color in the chat there for his name.
Well, if you hit that join button, Con 2.0, you not only change your color, I think you also gain a fancy badge next to your name, brother.
Oh, a little logo. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
And then finally, Carlito, good to see you back, Ural. The financier says, any guesses on how much capital Beşiktaş will have raised come Wednesday? Oh, they cut off his last question. Is it safe to say there will be no contenders to be thrown into the elections, which are going to be on the 11th already? May 11th?
I have no idea, man. Is there any indication? Like, I feel, is that like a rhetorical question you're asking there, Carlito, or do you know something more? I have no idea, man. I really hope we're gonna get some positive news.
That's got to be a rhetorical question.
That could change our outlook on next season and the foreseeable future for the club if we can raise a decent amount of capital, right?
Timing, obviously, with the release, but
timing.
As far as the elections go, I haven't heard anything about any legit contenders for Serdar, but
somebody did declare, but I didn't even know his name. I've already forgotten his name. So somebody did say that he was going to run, but I think it's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be like a 90+% win for Serdar Adala. I think there's no serious.
At this point, look, I don't think it benefits the club changing the board again at this point. No, exactly. I think we just need to give something a go.
Yeah. I mean, if someone came in promising stability and to not change, but it's just like, why would they do that? There doesn't really need to be a change. I don't think it's not even worth.
I really want to see how this plays out with Edward Graf. I'm interested.
Yeah,
exactly.
Same.
I want to see.
That's what I meant. Like, if someone said we're gonna change certain aspects, but we're not gonna change anything on the back end of the club, like that'd be an interesting election. Like, then why are you running?
Yeah,
I guess,
and
right?
there's a lot of
I don't
news
think that's gonna
as well. Like, apparently he's there's been some reports that Adal is looking at bringing Serhan Setinsaya into the club, right? The guy who had the Samandra project. Samandra, no. What was it called, Kartel? What was that?
Yeah, I think it was just a real estate project.
Yeah, the real estate project, but I forgot what's it called. Something.
The sort of secondary one, right? Yeah, the one that.
Secondary
I
one.
thought it was Samandra.
No, Samandra. I can't remember the name of the project, but it was just a real estate project, and I'm sure it's in a piece of land near Istanbul Airport.
No. This is on the Asian side.
All right.
Carlito will know. He'll write it in the chat, hopefully. So there's some rumblings about that, and there's been some talk about the real estate project, some other real estate project, and there's, I think we just need to stay the course. When he gets inevitably re-elected, he's got 3 years.
Pashamandra.
Thank you, Pashamandra. So then we'll have 3 years, and we'll have time. The pressure will be off a little bit, I hope, for him so he can start working on those long-term projects. I really hope he stays the course with Edward Graf thing, with the way he wants to run the club. He needs to stick with.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna say he's done a fantastic job on the stuff he's supposed to be doing a fantastic job on, but I would say that where he has been good is where I need him to be good. He has delegated, right? He's kept himself out of the football side of business, put it in the hands of professionals. That's what we need more than anything else. So if he's a bit of a snake oil salesman with all the property talk, and he's maybe establishing assets for himself to live comfortably for the rest of his life, whatever. We'll see how that goes. But at the very least, we can definitely all agree that he's backed out of football operations, which we definitely need more than anything from these guys.
He has done an interview this week or last week on Hatayspor where he did say some stuff that I wasn't super excited about, but let's just hope that he stays the course with what he's doing right now, and he comes true on some of those real estate promises, and that the capital that is being brought in with these with the extra stock being generated, hopefully there'll be plenty of capital there to get us out of the bank union agreement, and hopefully enough to then afterwards still have some money left as well that we can then hopefully reinvest in the squad, and for the first time in a long time, hopefully invest in a good way, not just trying to be, the bargain bin shoppers that we have been for far too long, buying square pegs to fit into round holes. No, we need to start making sense out of our transfer policy. It needs to start making sense. We can't just be buying players for the sake of buying them because of the name they used to have. We need, I have a list, and I know we were talking about it, that we're going to do an episode on it in the near future. I just quickly want to go over this list. So, these are 15 players in the squad right now. Gabriel Paulista, he's been great when he's fit, but he's way too injury prone. He's 35 years old. That's number one. Tayyip Talha, he's over the hill. Post injury, he's not good enough. He needs to go. Necip, how is Necip gonna come back? That's number 3. Bakhtiar, always injured. Arthur Masuaku, past his prime. He's been great under Ole.
And his contract's over.
His contract's up. He's past his prime. He doesn't have the legs that you want from a fullback, I feel. Onur Bullet, he's just a drizzling shit. He's terrible. That's 5 already. Then we have Amir. Okay, last 2 games he's been good, but I don't think he's worth it giving up a foreign spot for. That's 6. Sali, lazy bastard, inconsistent. That's number 7. Ox. Again, somebody who's past his best. He's still a good football player, but he's past it. He's past his prime. He's too injury prone, and he's expensive. That's 8. Musrati. Yeah, what are we going to do with Musrati? He's square peg, round hole, right? Like, he doesn't really fit. He's a good footballer, but he's, the fans have given up on him, I feel. The club has kind of given up on him by sending him to Monaco. That's going to be a tough one to sell if he comes back in the summer. Like, how are you going to sell that? Oh, we kind of want to get rid of him, but we couldn't get rid of him. So now
he's really good. Trust me.
Yeah, so now we have to build on him. Like, that doesn't work. That's 9. Then we have Ernest Mucci, who is a good footballer, but he's being played out of position. He's not great on the wings. He's not as effective. And there's a far better player in his prime position. So is that somebody you want to keep around? That's 10. Then you have Rasica, not good enough. Simi, he has his head stuck up his own ass. That's 11. Hekimolo, too young, needs experience, needs to be loaned out for a season or 2. That's 12. And then you have Ciro. Well, maybe I didn't count properly. Then you have Ciro, who, also past his prime, over the hill, overpaid. I like Ciro a lot, but he hasn't been bringing what we want him to bring, And so let me see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players that in an ideal world we'd be either loaning out like Hekimolo. I don't want, I like Mustafa. I think he has a bright future, but I don't think he should be part of the squad next season. I don't think it does him any favors because he needs to go and develop and he needs to play. And I don't think we gain much from it either because he's not good enough yet. So he needs to go out on loan. Mucci, I think it's a waste to keep him because he if you're not going to play him in his prime position, you're wasting him. And Musrati, I don't know. What do you think about Musrati, Katla? You're probably the biggest Musrati fan here, but what do you think? He played 45 minutes on the weekend for Monaco in their 1-1 draw against Le Havre.
Stats actually looked. Stats looked really good from that game. I had a look at his stats and they looked good. But he's not been playing regularly enough for them. So why would they spend 8 million on a guy that's not been playing regularly? So I think he's going to have to come back. But look,
probably
it seems to me that Ole's decided that he's not what he wants for his system, or else I think he would have stayed. So if he's not who the coach wants, then we need to offload him.
Exactly, and that's going to be much more difficult, right? If Monaco doesn't opt on him, and to talk about TV deals, that's a big thing in French football as well, right? They have taken a massive hit on their TV deal because otherwise you could say, you know what, maybe maybe Monaco doesn't mind spending 8 to 10 million on a good squad player. But I think given the economical status of French football right now, I doubt they're gonna want to fork out that type of money for a player that right now they aren't seeing as a starter. You know, so he's probably coming back, and then we're gonna be left with a difficult situation. I don't know. How did I start this rant, guys? It had to do with Settle Adala.
I mean, we were, yeah. I don't know. We're gonna have to do this in depth, though.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like we have
pretty soon.
an important thing. Like Arroyo scored his first league goal.
Yeah.
We're not spoke about
Yeah, that was important. That's a good point to end our episode on.
Great finish.
That's a nice positive.
Great finish as well.
Yeah.
Great assist by
And
Rafa.
great build-up too.
Yeah.
And where does that attack start? It starts with Semi as well, which was nice to see.
Yeah.
He used his body well to shield the ball,
Mhm.
turns his man, passes it to Orange, who passes it to João Mario. João Mario quickly moves
His
the
head
the
was
ball
up
onto that.
for a change. Kept his head up,
Yeah,
got stuck in, fought for the ball, won the ball back, then shielded it well, like you said, then kept his head up, found the pass, played the pass, and then great counter attack and also a good goal from Keny because it's a good finish.
Yeah.
He does what Ciro wasn't able to do in the first half, bent the ball around the keeper and score in the back of the net.
and the thing about this as well is it's nice to see Rafa, because Rafa could have easily shot himself, but no, he wanted to give the kid his first league goal. That's very important as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a nice positive point.
And one more thing
he's
as
getting.
well.
I noticed. Sorry.
Yeah, one more thing as well is just Rafa's insane numbers. He's I think 20. Sorry, I think I tweeted 29, but I think it might be 28. 28 goal contributions in a single season. So I'm just gonna check. I'm just gonna double check because it's a little confusing because Transfermarkt doesn't do.
They do the penalty thing.
Doesn't do the penalty one.
What?
So like
20.
there's always this.
According to FOTMOB, can
20. How much?
27.
And he's
27.
27 according to FOTMOB, and he has 1-2 penalties, so then it's 29. But then for some reason, Haber Kartala were tweeting 28 the other day. And then I checked, I think, on Transfermarkt. I'm just going to check again, but I think Transfermarkt had him on 28. So I don't quite understand because he definitely won a penalty before. I don't remember exactly which one it was. Let's see. So, yeah. So Transfermarkt have him on 44 matches, 16 goals, and 12 assists. And then FOTMOB have him on. Let me check. FOTMOB have him on 16 goals and 11 assists. So there's a one assist discrepancy, and that is definitely that penalty that he won in this game. But I'm 100% sure that he won a penalty a couple of weeks ago as well. So I don't know why.
I'm sure he's won more than just the one.
No, I think he's won 2. I think he's won 2 penalties this season. But I don't quite understand why Transfermarkt then isn't, like, apparently they're not counting. Because, like, let's see. So in the league, in the Super League, he has on FOTMOB 4 assists and 10 goals, and on Transfermarkt he has 5 assists and 10 goals. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, but I'm pretty sure he's won 2 penalties, so it should be, according to Transfermarkt logic, 29 goal contributions. In what is arguably, together with last season, like the 2 worst seasons of the past 25 years, to be able to get a player that still has 5 matches to go, guys, and he could very well become... would he be the first one to break the 30 goal cap for Beşiktaş? Because like Talisca had like a couple of seasons where he was scoring a lot of goals as well. I'm just gonna check because I think the second season from Talisca for Beşiktaş, that was probably his most productive season. And I saw some people mentioning that Rafa surpassed him, but I feel like he must have.
So, Mario Gomez has had 33 goal contributions.
Okay.
In the 15-16 season. So Rafa does need. He needs to have another 7 goal contributions in 5 games to pass Mario Gomez. So it's not very likely.
No, 4 to level him, right?
So from what I can see here, Gomez has 28 plus 5, which makes 33. Rafa's currently on 27.
No, Rafa's on 29 though. Are you watching on football?
But that's according. I'm looking at football.
Okay. Let's see. So Talisca had in 2017-18. My eyes are so shit now. He had, let me see, he had 13 assists and 16 goals. How did Talisca get 13 assists? That's crazy.
I think he had like 3 in this game or something.
So he had 29 goal contributions. That's insane as well, to be honest. 36 matches, 29 goal contributions. So Rafa is on his way to surpass that at the moment.
TT No Face says sell the whole squad, in my opinion, except Rafa.
Oh wait. This seems wrong.
Dude.
Anyway, still Rafa's contributions are insane. What did TT say about Rafa?
He said the whole squad except Rafa and Mert.
Why do people...
I said you could sell Mert too, probably.
I wonder why are people always like Mert? Like I saw I saw a squad, like I think it was Mustafa Korkusuz or something, or Mustafa Karataş, I'm not sure, one of the two Mustafas, like post a graphic of the team for next season, what it should be, and like there was like transfer, Rafa, transfer, Emirhan or something, transfer, Mert. And I'm just thinking like,
if you're doing, why not get rid of
like
Mert too?
Like, if you're getting rid of Svensson, I think you should get rid of Mert as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Svensson for me is one of the few guys I'd keep. Like, he's serviceable.
What about Jetson?
Yeah, Jetson was in the team actually. Yeah, Jetson was one of the players in the team.
Okay, at least.
Like,
seems like Jetson's going to go, but Sercan Dikme and Mustafa Korkusuz are all reporting that the likelihood is that Jetson goes in the summer.
I mean,
we'll
if they're offered,
I mean, you know, if we get out of the bank union agreement and we sell, but you know, I think if we sell him without negotiating down Benfica's percentage, I still think it's a terrible deal because you can sell him for 25 million, but if you only get 12.5 million in a pair of eyebrows, I think that's a shitty deal, man.
Yeah.
Come on, Kettle. I'm not getting a big ass smile for that. Come on.
I got the joke, man. I got it.
I hope you're.
What happened with Ozcan's eyebrows? Are they there? Or does he have them still?
He has them for the moment. I mean, but if you're to believe Sercan Dikme and Mustafa Korkusuz, then he won't have them come.
They're on their last legs.
He won't have the. You know, maybe he can argue. Yeah, but I meant, you know, after Benfica's cut. Then he has a chance, you know, if we sell him for like 23 million or something, then technically we didn't get the 12, right?
Yeah. Khan 2.0 said Mert as a backup would be solid. I know it's a long shot. He says Khan 1.0. It's because of the foreign limit and the absence of high-quality Turkish keepers. But sure, you say that, but then about the foreign limit and the absence of high-quality Turkish right backs, right? If you're getting rid of Svensson or central midfielders, if you're getting rid of Jetson, or I mean, you know, you go down the line. It's not like this is like a surplus of Turkish talent at any position at this stage. So I'm not sure if I'm willing to go down that logic.
I think unless you can get like a really, really good foreign goalkeeper, it's probably best to stick with a Turkish goalkeeper. But then I think you do have to start looking ahead, and you know, there's a guy right now who is doing really well, Berke Özer. are we just
I'd
gonna
love
allow?
to see Beşiktaş.
You know, are we just gonna allow Galatasaray to sign him without competition? I think we should at least make an attempt, right? If you look at young Turkish goalkeepers, he's what, 25? Which other young Turkish goalkeeper would you consider right now? Can you guys think of anyone?
For me, it's Beke who's there for sure. He's the one that's he's the standout.
It's the only one.
But I mean, I had to do a little research on that because we've seen some pretty solid keepers this season, to be honest. Although it always feels like they have the game of their life against us.
Yeah,
so I don't know what that says.
Doğan Alemdar, he was doing really well, but I think he got injured. Like he was doing quite well in France as well, and he was playing for the. He was getting called up for the national team and stuff, but I'm pretty sure he got a bad injury a couple of months ago. And then, you know, honestly, I wouldn't be too confident unless I can see the player play regularly. And yeah, he's only played 3 games this season, so I think he's injured right now. Let's see.
Yeah. Now, something else I want to say as well, see, about selling everyone other than Martin Rafa. I think, see the disrespect like Sudokai gets on social media.
Yeah. Oh
Shit! I hadn't even thought about
wow,
Felix.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
I think
It is.
I think, see, if you obviously besides the injuries, obviously he had one injury when he was out for a few weeks, and then he's had a second really big injury. I think Felix Udokai's been the best signing from last year other than Rafa.
Together with Emirhan.
Udokai's been
I agree.
Udokai and Emirhan. I think left centre back is one position that we don't need to touch for a few years at least.
Yeah, the big
like 5 years.
The big question mark is he gonna stay fit, right? Because he has had injury issues in the past. That's the big reason why he didn't move to a bigger club in Germany, because of injury issues. Last season he was injury free for the first time in a long time, and now he's picked up an injury again that takes him out for 2 months. That makes me a little bit scared, but I agree with you, Kettle. It's disgusting, and especially because the criticism on Udokai only starts once he's out. Like the last time, once he got injured, then suddenly everyone started talking shit about him. But as long as he was fit and playing, because he was playing well week in, week out, you didn't hear a peep. And they're doing the exact same thing now. He's out injured, so you know, he can't defend himself with his performances on the pitch, and now they're slandering him. Like, why? I would argue he's, like, other than Davinson Sanchez, I would argue Udokai is the best foreign defender in the league.
Yeah, I think he is, because
it's probably, it's a good shout.
For me, I take Udokai over Emirhan any day of the week, because I think Udokai is a lot more polished. Yeah. Emirhan's very good, but I still think he makes positional mistakes.
He does,
Whereas Udokai doesn't make mistakes, I feel. The only time Udokai's performances were if he was 2-3 games after that first injury, but as soon as Ollie came in, he was amazing, and he was amazing when he first came up until that first injury as well. Yeah. Remember that
Lyon match, man? Like he earned
the Lyon match, but also
renewal that day. You know?
Every big game up until the Galatasaray game recently, every big game that we performed well in was with Emirhan and Udokai together. I think, if I'm not mistaken, except for maybe the Super Cup. Yeah, the Super Cup.
Yeah, Paulista was good there.
But the win against Lyon, the win against Athletic Club, the win against Fenerbahçe, the win against Galatasaray, like that was all with Udokai and Emirhan, man, and they played fantastic games. Like even in the away game that we lost due to 2 set pieces against Galatasaray, Emirhan and Udokai had Osimhen locked up tight. That is, I mean, and Udokai, I don't understand why he gets this. There is an agenda against him, and I don't know if
Conto says people talking shit about Felix is because of price/performance, I guess, which would be ridiculous. What was $3.5 million?
I think we paid. I think one of the big reasons, like the agenda against him started with Samet Aybaba. He started this. Yeah. He launched that.
Yeah, because it was there was the Friedel move.
It was
the whole.
Right? It was
he said.
Sorry, go ahead, Kaplan.
Samet said he was
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said he wouldn't have
He
signed
said
him
he didn't sign him.
because he's an idiot.
And he also said that, he also said he wouldn't sign. He didn't want to sign Yusuf Sarr. He's also the one who extended Tayyip Talha's contract. We can go on, Mr. Samet Aybaba, the God's gift to Turkish football, to Beşiktaş.
Emirhan either.
Yeah, he didn't want to sign Emirhan, right?
I mean, this guy's a moron.
The only signings we made that he actually wanted were fucking Paulista, Immobile, and Rafa.
Yeah, he wanted Nemanja Matic.
Funny.
He wanted Nemanja Matic, 38-year-old defensive midfielder. That's what he wanted. That's one of the things he said. I wanted to get Nemanja Matic instead of Musrati. Yeah, you want to get a 38-year-old player. Great. Yeah, okay.
Good move.
Because Musrati was so expensive, and we in hindsight we overpaid for Musrati 100%. But signing Nemanja Matic to he is on a big contract, big contract. Yeah. You want to spend 7 to 8 million guaranteed on 2 years of Nemanja Matic plus hidden bonuses probably. Like with Ciro, now they're saying 6 million a year, but its real cost is 10.8 million a year or something like that. I'm sure Nemanja Matic would have been 6 million a year or something as well with all the costs. And then you're paying that for a 38-year-old player, I mean, Samet Aybaba needs to shut the fuck up, and all the people that, all the.
I think
in his camp,
there's so many snakes, many snakes in Turkish media, man. You can't trust these people.
Yeah, I just don't understand it because I honestly, Felix Udokai when fits our best centre back, I think he's that good. Very, very good, man. Apart from the few. 2 to 3 games after that first injury, he's been amazing all season.
He's a warrior.
See before, I've not checked it recently. I reckon because we've been bad, our records went downhill in that regard. But before Felix got injured the second time, we were the team that conceded the least goals in the league.
Yeah. The only concern with Felix I have is injuries, and is he going to be injury prone going forward? I think the only thing that can cause Felix to be viewed as a flop is if he becomes super injury prone going forward.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't become injury prone after this, next season he's just gonna be reliable. I think in after next season everyone's gonna be sucking him off.
Yeah. Well, guys, I got to bring these ladies to practice. Let's wrap this sucker up.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah. Any more comments we need to get to?
One more. Bueno, this is not his fault. It was the previous chairman who waited and purchased. Yeah, it was the sort of politics of the Felix purchase. And then Bueno says, this guy is totally an idiot. He's talking about Samet. He said, so we don't get Yusuf because he's a counterattack player, but we got right back of the same team. He extended Tayyip's contract. Every decision he made was shit. Yeah.
I like Svensson, so I think that was his only good decision to bring Svensson. I like Svensson a lot.
No, but he's saying that his logic for not bringing in Yusuf Sarr is because he plays for a counterattacking side, and then we get their fullback, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, no, I mean, Svensson's great. TT No Face, Samet Aybaba, and Feyyaz did Riza Çalınbay dirty.
Did they? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, Riza Çalınbay did himself dirty, honestly, I think.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Riza Çalınbay screwed Riza Çalınbay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I see what you did there.
So that's it, fellas. Yeah. Let's talk. Nathan Davis is here. He made it just in time. As a wise man is wont to exclaim, "Oh, don't steal my thunder now, Nathan." All right, hold on, time out. I gotta loosen up. Lately, my voice has been cut off for this, so I gotta get the vocal cords in the right place. Excuse me, folks. Let's go, Beşiktaş! Peace out,
everybody. Let's beat Fener in the derby.
We've got another match. Yes, we've got another match incoming, and it's a biggie. We are playing Fener at noon on Sunday. Shout! An old Scott, no comment, I think down the boom, Paul, Connor, Nathan, Mr. Baseball David, finish. Not a Swedish Grabov. Christian Gray, Michael Berry, Umer, Super Positive, Gunnar, Nara, Iris, Mario, not sporting director, the Victor Latin, the indefatigable financier himself, the Dutch Eagle. Peace out, everybody! Bam, bam, bam.